It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
We are live on a Tuesday afternoon downtown in the Alico building here in Central Texas. Of course, the Pete Sousa Show brought to you by Crawford Austin. That's a company where they've got their hand in so much here in Waco, real estate wise, that you don't even know it. But when you find out, you know that you're finally part of the in crowd. I'm still looking to find out, but I hear it's a big deal. Also, how about Slovakics of West? Can't beat it. I told you I was there yesterday. I'll be headed to North Texas a little bit later this week, and I will be stopping at Slovakics of West to get some kolaches and to hang out and see some real cool people there. And to get, like I always say, you like tchotchkes and you're traveling through Central Texas, make sure you stop there. All kinds of cool stuff you can grab at great prices. I'll tell you what, grabbing the headlines this morning, Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, but not for good reasons, not for reasons that Aaron Rodgers would like. I first want to report that I was watching his appearance on the Pat McAfee show just about an hour ago, and Aaron Rodgers is talking about football again, which is pretty cool. I mean, he's on the Pat McAfee show, and he's talking with A.J. Hawk and Pat McAfee, and they're watching film and footage of last night's game, and that is what they're talking about, which is pretty exciting. We're going to talk a little bit about that game. Also talk about some fallout from that game that I think was kind of unfortunate, but I want to take you inside, like the public relations post-game frantic situations that can pop up. And I think we had one of those last night with Jordan Mason. And then I want to talk about Tyreek Hill. We're talking to Kevon Cobb, former Charlotte 49ers football player, about what he saw in that experience, and he just shares his thoughts, his take on that, and he also shares his locks of the week. And of course, we'll wrap things up here with a home game with our main man Cam Stewart. But we want to start first talking about fear. I'll tell you, I've been dealing with a little bit of that recently. I was sharing with my boys here at the Rogue Media Network. I'm lucky enough that I will get asked once in a while to do like speaking engagements. And I'm asked to do the speaking engagement here for Mission Waco, which I'm like so pumped about. My main man, Jim Haller, who was a former coach, Baylor men's basketball coach, he took over after Carol Dawson left to go to the Houston Rockets. Carol Dawson, 27 years in the front office of the Houston Rockets. We talked a little bit about him yesterday. Just passed away. And Carol Dawson's a Hall of Famer. And he helped the Rockets to 2 championships, probably one of the best teams we've seen, those back-to-back titles, Rip City Rockets, with Akeem and Clyde. And he has since passed away. So was talking to Coach Haller today, or was planning to talk to him about Carol Dawson. All the while, Coach Haller was the one who had put together the speaking engagement for me, which is on October 22nd, speaking to the folks at Mission Waco about, and I don't know why anybody would want to hear about this, but about my story. So I'm ramping up to talk to them about my story. Then last week I get an email from ESPN, and they're having basically they have a seminar, a symposium, where they have play-by-play guys, color analysts, and producers that do college basketball play-by-play or college basketball coverage. They have them up to Charlotte, and it's a whole like couple days. And it's something that, like, if you're a guy like me, you need to be there. You're not passing on that kind of stuff. So now I got this situation where I'm freaking out because I got to talk to Coach Haller and say, hey, Coach, I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to make this thing that you asked me about in March, by the way. I might have to do this engagement with ESPN. And I'm scared to talk to Coach Haller about it because he's Coach Haller. And I've had an experience with coaches in my entire life where, I don't know, I'm just scared of them. I think it's a real healthy fear. I've often thought how much better I would be in life if I had somebody like Bill Parcells just follow me around and call me out on my crap all day long. because my entire life is a series of contemplation of shortcuts, and whether or not I take those shortcuts or not, every day is to be determined. But if I had somebody like Bill Parcells or Jim Haller tell me what I should do, I think it might go a little differently for me in a positive way. Anyways, I called Coach Haller. I was terrified. He didn't answer the phone, which of course immediately I was relieved with. And then I called Carlos at Mission Waco. And you want to talk about a solution-based guy? Let's talk about Carlos. I had him on the phone. I said, look, I got this crazy idea. I've seen no advertisement for this Mission Waco speaking engagement that I'm doing and this incredible breakfast you guys do every year. Is there a way we could push it to Thursday and not do it Tuesday? Carlos, and I was like, look, I know you don't want to do anything like that based on what I can provide at this breakfast, but at the same time, I haven't seen any publicity for it yet. I don't know if we've sent out invites or if you guys have sent out invites. So Carlos is working on that. It was a major relief for me right now because I'm terrified of confrontation. So we're working on that. I'm pretty happy. I called my friend Julie Hayes earlier this morning to see if she could fill in for me. She said she could not because she had to take her kids to the dentist that morning. And that's when I moved forward to try to figure out another plan. So all that said, just a window into my life, and the terror, the fear that drives me every day that I try to release. Work on that every day too. All right, talk about fear. How about my main man last night, Jordan Mason? He was terrifying. I mean, literally rushing for close to 140 yards. Just gashing, the way my man Kevon Cobb put it. We'll talk to him a little bit, but just gashing that Jets defense, a defense that was supposed to be one of the best defenses in all of football. Now, the reason that Mason was starting was because 90 minutes before game time, it was announced that Christian McCaffrey would not play. Surprise to most of America and folks that follow football. So after the game, Mason, again, had this outstanding performance. And let's give a quick clip to when he talked to Lisa Salters post-game.
Honestly, just thinking about it, I told Christian, I said, I don't know how you do it, man. It's a long game, but, this is just the beginning, and, we're going to see where we go from here.
When did you find out that you were going to be starting?
When did I find out? Maybe Friday night, something like that. I was always prepared. I mean, we went through training camp. I was RB1 at training camp, so, just been preparing from there and just.
Okay, so you saw like there was kind of a hesitation almost. As a person, I almost felt like that was a fork in the road moment. Like, the truth is, he probably found out Friday, which, okay, if he found out Friday and the 49ers released the information 90 minutes before game time on Monday night, well, that's a little bit of chicanery, which, by the way, is as old. It's been going on in the NFL forever, right? The NFL doesn't like it, but the injury reports and all those situations and coaches and their ability to kind of fudge that. Hey, any chance you can get to have a competitive advantage, that's what these coaches try to work on. So it's quite possible that the 49ers weren't as revealing as they could have been as far as Christian McCaffrey's availability. By the way, it can't be overlooked. Jordan Mason, I'm looking at his stat line here, 28 carries. That's so awesome. 28 carries in today's NFL just like gets me fired up. Guys getting the rock all game long. 147 yards and 1 touchdown, a long run of 24 yards. And it felt like this guy was just he could not be stopped. I think they showed parts last night. I watched a little bit of the Manning brothers and Bill Belichick, and Bill Belichick was just loving how the 49ers offense and offensive line in particular was just owning the Jets defensive line. So, okay, so we talked about that and the fact that Jordan Mason was pretty revealing to Lisa Salters. And Lisa Salters asked a good question. It wasn't like a gotcha question. She just asked him. And after the game, now I want you to keep in mind, now there's been about like 20, I don't know how, maybe an hour in between, like when he talks to Lisa Salters, he goes to the locker room, right? He gets changed, a cooling off period, showers, and then he goes out to talk to the media because, ESPN has like dibs, right, in that walk-off interview. So now he's going to talk to the rest of the media. All right, here's how that plays out. Take a listen.
Tough opener for us, travel-wise.
Is there another one? Okay. So there's another one of Jordan Mason. My bad, Zach. There's another one of Jordan Mason after the game where he goes and talks to all the media who's assembled, like as a press conference. And a media member asked Jordan Mason, hey, when did you find out? And Jordan Mason says, hey, this is why I don't like talking to the media. He said, you can get in trouble for saying the littlest thing. So the impression you get there is in between him saying that it was Friday and going out and talking to the national media or the rest of the media, local media too in San Francisco, it's clear somebody was like, hey, Jordan, like either that's not what happened, because what Kyle Shanahan was saying happened was, hey, we may have told Jordan, be ready, right? Be ready. This could be your shot. But we never told him that he was going to start because Christian was definitely out. And that's the story that the 49ers are going with. And that's a story that it seemed like somebody got to Jordan Mason and said, hey, here's the deal. When you go back out and talk to media, tell them that you were misunderstood. So, and I know this too, like from when I used to do PR for basketball teams, like whether it was the Sixers or the Hornets, like you will have situations like that where a guy says something and then a writer will hear it and then go walk over to somebody else on the other side of the locker room and he'll be like, hey, Kim Stewart, like I was just talking to Zach Burke over there. And Zach said that you're not getting him the ball in crunch time, which is why you guys are losing. And it's like a whole thing. As a PR person in a moment like that, you're like, oh my God, like this couldn't get any worse. So I like to think I'm pretty sure the 49ers public relations people got to Jordan Mason and said, hey, just say you were misunderstood. But this is like today's athlete. Like these people, and good for them, they're not robots anymore. Like they really don't care. And so Jordan Mason, I would imagine if I'm him and the modern day athlete, he doesn't go out there and say the robotic thing. He goes out there and basically says, hey, I said something and now I'm in trouble. So I'm honest with you guys and now I'm in trouble. And it was like a real window into the humanity that goes on behind the scenes. And it almost felt like, seriously, like, and this is like my armchair quarterbacking, doesn't mean anything, but like Jordan Mason seems like a guy who's got trust issues with people of authority, which is could be possibly something there. Like there's a reason why people act the way that they act. So I thought that situation was a bummer for him because he almost seemed emotional when he was talking to members of the media, not the on-field interview, but afterwards. And this is a night where this is this dude's coming out party. 26 carries or 28 carries, 147 yards, averaging 5.3 a carry. He's in his third season out of Georgia Tech. This is clearly the crescendo for him so far. Let me see his stats overall. Yeah, I mean, career stats. Let's take a look here. Yeah, this is as good as it gets for him. So it's kind of a bummer, or as good as it's gotten for him. So it's kind of a bummer to see that. The Jets are a whole nother situation. And I do believe that the Jets, I disagree with my cohort, Cam, who we'll talk to in a little bit. I guess it was it Robert? Who said the comment about 1-0 or 0-1 with Aaron Rodgers? Zach?
It was Robert Saleh.
So Robert Saleh said that.
Yeah, well, that was the ESPN headline. Yeah, that he alluded that 0-1 with Rodgers was better than 1-0 last year.
And I couldn't agree more. Like a little shot of truth serum. Basically, like even looking at Aaron Rodgers talking to the media after the game, and he was being accountable. He went when he was talking a little bit with McAfee, and just a couple moments ago, about an hour ago, he was talking about mistakes that he made, inability to get the ball to certain playmakers and stuff that he needed to work on. And so, but the fact that like he was talking football to those guys, the fact that Aaron Rodgers is still healthy and moving forward, yeah, I understand that. I understand that quote by Robert Saleh. I mean, last year was a nightmare for the Jets, and it was because they had nothing at the quarterback position and a lot of stuff everywhere else. So let's listen to Aaron Rodgers last night after the loss.
Tough opener for us, travel-wise and schedule-wise, but no excuses. We got to play better. I got to play better, and we'll bounce back next week.
You were not happy with the way you played?
I can play better. Yeah, no, I mean, I missed a couple throws. I missed the one to Garrett there, last drive I was in. The pick, I missed just slightly inside on that one. Yeah, I mean, I felt overall I was getting the ball out pretty good, but I had some opportunities that I'd like back. A lot to correct, but overall I feel good about our guys. Thought the protection was really good tonight. We just were a little bit off in the run game. Couldn't get Brees going. Couldn't give him enough space. But a lot to build on. Yeah, it's been a while. I felt great. A lot of gratitude just to be back in pads. So many people helped me get to this spot. So I'm really thankful for my surgeon, my PTs, my loved ones, my friends, the staff here, training staff to help me get back was really cool. Obviously wanted to take a shot and feel the physicality of it. Once I threw a couple balls and took a shot, I felt good. Felt like I was into the game.
One thing I think that's really telling when you look at numbers, Aaron Rodgers had played like a series of football over the last 640 days. When you think about him wrapping up his career in Green Bay to tonight, his first full football game. Since his last full football game, it's been 630 days. That's pretty good for a guy who's 40 years of age, knocking the rust off. 13 of 21, 167 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Very important, was only sacked once. So I think it's going to be pretty cool to see where we go moving forward with the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. I still say if he stays healthy, they're going to make the AFC Championship game. I didn't say win it. They're going to make the AFC Championship game. Cam is off camera, pulling his hat down real low. That's showing a sign of disrespect. We'll get to him later. Tyreek Hill, the situation that played out before all of America on Sunday afternoon. We learned more about it yesterday. You can watch the body cam video online and come to your own conclusion. But Drew Rosenhaus, who is Tyreek Hill's agent, who is one of the most powerful agents in the NFL, and he's low-key been still the man in NFL circles, but this is a public reemergence of Drew Rosenhaus, which under these circumstances, which are kind of a bummer, I still have appreciated. I love Drew Rosenhaus in my life. Let's hear what he had to say yesterday talking to Stephen A. Smith.
Obviously a very influential individual. When you showed up, did you say anything specifically to the officers? Did they say anything to you?
I was really focused on Tyreek. I said to the officers involved, what's going on here? And initially they were very rude to me as well. Initially didn't want to let me get to Tyreek. I said, look, I'm Tyreek's agent. I'm a lawyer as well. You're not going to stop me. It was just a shocking scenario to see our client treated in this capacity.
With that being said, where do you go from here? Because I know they say there's an investigation going on, but they did issue a statement saying that they felt Tyreek Hill was uncooperative, but one of the officers has been resigned to desk duty, I guess. Where do you go from here? What's your recourse from this point forward?
Well, I trust Tyreek. He said he wasn't uncooperative, but even if he was, explaining that he was trying to get to the game, trying to get into the stadium, explaining who he was, that doesn't lend itself to put a guy in cuffs and put him on the ground. And
well, see, that's it right there. And that statement by Rosenhaus, I know he's somebody who, of course, would be a mouthpiece for Tyreek Hill, but worst case scenario, and I watched the footage, it wasn't the get along gang, right? From the moment that the police approached his car after pulling him over. But at the same time, there's just it wasn't a measurable response to what had happened. And it seems like more and more details will come out with this, but the body cam video is out there. I think that Tyreek Hill was being a little disrespectful. It still does not matter. What played out should not have played out. And it seems like you're talking about a police officer with an ego problem at the end of the day. We're going to talk to that actually a little bit more with Kevon Cobb, and he's going to come back with some picks as we continue to roll on here. It is the Pete Sousa Show downtown in the Alico building. Zach Burke is on the wheels of steel. Remember, you look right here. Socorro Family Ford, D1, Daniel Stark Injury Lawyers, and, of course, our good friends at Slovacics and Crawford Austin. We'll step aside and be back with Kevon Cobb.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Welcome back, Kevon Cobb. I got to talk to you a little bit about your picks this week. I mean, I'm trying to think of the name for the segment. I know you used to hammer guys when you were playing safety as the Charlotte 49ers, and now you're going to give us the keys to all the locks, and you're doing that today.
Oh, yeah.
And you're in Charlotte today. I like how you've mixed it up a little bit. You're in the middle of a move, and you still found a way to make it work this week.
Yeah, and I don't think we're done switching it up, Pete, but we're happy to hop on from where we're at today.
All right, so tell me who you like this week. I like to get into my early picks with you.
Yeah, for sure. We can start with the Thursday game, which is actually going to be, another great primetime game. I think the NFL has put on a couple of really good ones. Like last night, the 49ers taking on the Jets, two teams who hopefully have Super Bowl aspirations. Same with last Thursday, the Chiefs and the Ravens, Eagles and Packers.
By the way, what did you think about the Jets defense? They couldn't stop a nosebleed last night.
Yeah, that was pretty surprising because, the whole storyline has been, Aaron Rodgers is coming in with a top 5 defense, and the defense was supposed to kind of run the show, and they've been running the show for, years now. And hopefully the whole plan was to have, a Hall of Fame quarterback jump in, and, now we're off and rolling towards the Super Bowl. But yesterday was a struggle. No Christian McCaffrey for the 49ers, and they got gashed left and right in the run game. So hopefully, they can get that figured out in New York, and I'm sure that they will. But yesterday was a little rough.
You'll find this sort of interesting. I was watching a little bit of the Manning boys with Bill Belichick was on with them.
Yep.
And he was loving, like he wanted to see all the angles of those running plays when, like you mentioned, the 49ers were just steamrolling him because he kept talking about, look at this offensive line. Like, there's no penetration. Like, so, and that's interesting, like coach speak too, rather than saying, oh, this defensive line is playing terrible. He was talking about how well the 49ers offensive line was playing. So maybe that's it. I mean, this is a Super Bowl team.
Absolutely. And you also think about they were getting no pressure on Brock Purdy all night either. It looks like money has been well spent in San Francisco. And I think about the other side of the ball, the New York Jets couldn't run the rock either. I mean, they were just getting stuffed on first and second down and putting Aaron Rodgers in some tough positions. I mean, the San Francisco 49ers are going to do their thing, and it looks like they're going to be on a bandwagon towards the Super Bowl. The question always is, can Kyle Shanahan get it done in that big game? So we'll see about that coming forward.
All right, can you get it done? Let's find out. What do you like for Thursday night?
Yeah, I mean, last Thursday, we were literally this close and covering our pick for last week, where Isaiah Likely should have wore some white cleats, but he chose the black cleats and he was out of bounds. This week, we're looking at Miami. I think Miami is going to be a team that, the line's at 1.5. They had, there was a great comeback win for the Bills at home on Sunday, but I think the Dolphins just have way too much offense at home. It's going to be prime time and probably the craziest city in the entire country. Some would argue. I would have to say the home field advantage is just a little bit too much. And, you hope to see Mike McDaniel win one of these big games. The story has always been Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins beat the teams that they should and lose to the teams that, could they win these? And I think this is going to be one of those games, divisional game, where Mike McDaniel pulls one out against the Buffalo Bills.
All right, I want to ask you about Tyreek Hill, too, while we're in Miami.
Yep.
Just a chaotic, wild scene. What do you take from that? And honestly, Kevon, like being a black guy, like when you see that, there's a lot of it's really like the way that Tyreek managed the situation yesterday. I thought was beautiful. Like it was just seamless how he navigated it. Celebrating on the field with his teammates. But then this is a pretty heavy situation too.
Yeah, no doubt, and it's a situation that definitely has to be addressed. And I think initially you think from the, after watching the body cam footage, you think from the cop standpoint, okay, Tyreek did seem to have tinted windows, for the cop safety day to day in, day out. Let's take Tyreek Hill out of the situation. He rolls his window up. You don't exactly know what's going on inside of the car. And if somebody happened to have a weapon, window up, window comes back down, that could be a bad situation for that cop. But I mean, after that, everything else is, fairly disgusting and sad to see. You have a guy, in this cop who seemed to have gotten his feelings hurt, pride scratched up a little bit. And now he's using his power, ripping Tyreek Hill out of the car, put his knee in his back, like who's the man now type
I'm
of
going to
move.
teach you a lesson.
Yeah, exactly. You're not.
And you, dude, you nailed it. Because me watching it again, I don't have the same experience you might have, or definitely don't. But like, I felt like the cop got his ego bruised.
Yeah.
And so he's like, okay, I'm going to show you now.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what you start to see in that situation. And I think Tyreek Hill hit it on perfectly. Like, what if I'm not Tyreek Hill? What if I'm, some random Joe who doesn't have, somebody to call initially right there to get me out of this situation? You see Tyreek Hill gets, they finally get him up off the ground. He's in handcuffs. What can he really be doing? He's walking towards the cop motorcycles or whatever they were. And next thing you know, the cop comes back trying to suplex Tyreek Hill. And, Tyreek screaming, hey, man, I just got a knee injury. This guy doesn't care. Clearly, it's just jarring to see. And it would be a long, sad day. Like if it were me or, my brother, it would be a sad thing to see. But I think about it. And the best thing about sports is that Tyreek Hill was able to turn this situation around. And there's so much negativity in this world. And obviously this guy is exhibit A, but Tyreek Hill scores a huge touchdown. And all of a sudden now the city of Miami is erupting in positivity. And he has, like you said, he has Jalen Waddle come up and puts him in handcuffs. in celebration instead now. And I think that's the coolest thing that Tyreek Hill could have done in this situation. Instead of making it some negative thing, Tyreek Hill does what Tyreek Hill does, scores touchdowns, makes people excited, celebrate, and happy. And he turned this situation around. And now we're celebrating the fact, hey, this guy, he's the negative, but I'm going to be the positive in this situation.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. And I totally, again, I don't share the same perspective, but I certainly share the same opinion that I thought it was amazing, his ability to turn that into a situation that's a positive. And I wouldn't be surprised if he turns it into a situation that police maybe can learn from going forward, right? How to de-escalate. And I would imagine that there's going to be some unity between him and the Miami Police Department going forward, because he just seems like so far the bigger guy. All right, I had to ask you about that, and I'm very happy I did. What about the NFL picks or Saturday? Take me through Saturday first.
Yes, the slate this Saturday is not that attractive.
You don't like it?
Yeah, to be completely honest, this Saturday is not that attractive in terms of especially betting. There's some really wide spreads. There's some huge underdogs, and it's hard to take a team because you look at Notre Dame last week. I'm not sure how much they were favored by, but next thing they lose to Northern Illinois. You look at other games out of the MAC where they're covering, these teams, these underdogs are covering huge spreads. And it's like, if one thing goes wrong in college football, it seems like all of a sudden this 40-point spread that Alabama might have, now they're not covering. And I looked at the slate this Saturday, and to be completely honest, I got to keep our name on this show a positive, and I don't want to go out with I can't go out with L's on Saturday, so we're going to completely fade this Saturday and look toward Sunday, which really there are some good games.
All right, let's
this
get
Sunday.
to it then. Let's get to Sunday.
100%. I would start with the Cardinals. I'm riding that bandwagon until the wheels fall off. Yes.
All right, what's the Cardinals matchup?
Yeah, so they're playing at home versus the LA Rams, who lost Puka Nacua. And surprisingly enough, the Cardinals are actually favored here. So that tells me Vegas might know a little something that most people don't, because I would assume the Rams should be favored in this game. But like I said, Kyler Murray could be that difference maker in this specific game. And this is when we need him to show up. I thought the Cards looked really solid early in the game versus the Buffalo Bills. Week 1, they're going into people in Buffalo get wild over football. And so you go in there and you take an early big lead. And I think that Kyler Murray is only going to get better. And I think he's only going to get more chemistry with Marvin Harrison Jr., with Trey McBride, with Michael Wilson. It's, all of his weapons, and James Conner, they absolutely feed that guy. I don't know how many touches he got on Sunday, but it seemed like he got the ball just about every single play. I love that play against the Rams. I think the Cardinals take that.
All right, so we like the Cardinals. We're going to lay the 2.
I would say we lay the 2, but if you're feeling safe, absolute money line's a good take as well.
Okay. All right. What else you got?
Yeah, Colts are going in to Green Bay with the Green Bay Packers, and they are favored by 3.5 points. I'm gonna take that one as well. I think the AR-15. There was an interesting stat. He's only started in 18 games since high school. That includes college. That includes, rookie season. He got injured in the league. He's in his second year, and he's only started in 18 games. And he made some of the most jaw-dropping plays and throws that I've just about ever seen. He's rolling left. There's a guy hanging on his ab and he just rips one 60 yards on the dime to Alec Pierce. I think he's only going to get better as well. And I could see the Indianapolis Colts going into Green Bay and taking that one, especially if Jordan Love is not going to play. Malik Willis is the backup there in Green Bay. I have Josh Jacobs on my fantasy football team, so let's hope he gets a couple more carries. But I do think the Indianapolis Colts go in there and win that game.
All right. Anything else for Sunday?
Yeah, we got one more. I've got a dog of the week, actually, and that is the Buccaneers are going into Detroit. And I'm an NFC South guy. I'm glad we haven't talked about the Carolina Panthers at all, and I would love to.
Look at that scare you.
Yeah, that one was rough, but the Buccaneers are still a really good team. Clearly, they properly handled the Washington Commanders, and Baker Mayfield is looking like, the Baker Mayfield that the Cleveland Browns wish they had a couple years ago. And like we said last week, Mike Evans is doing what Mike Evans does, and that's scoring touchdowns, and that's having 1,000 receiving yards every single season. Todd Bowles is going to keep this defense looking strong. And I could see the Detroit Lions having a hangover game after, Matthew Stafford comes back into the town. You have, imagine your ex comes back into town. You're going to have a hangover after you see your ex. So I think after that big win that they had with the LA Rams, they're going to fall in this game. I definitely want to take the points +7 before the money line in that one. But these are two good teams, and I think that the Buccaneers are going to cover that spread this week.
I think you're right in the sense where that's a lot of points.
Mm-hmm.
7 points for a Buccaneers team that looks like they're on to something right now, and they've got a lot of dog in them. All right, anything else before we let you go? You've brought it once again.
Yeah, well, no, that's all that we've got for this week. We don't want to get too hasty with it. Maybe as Sunday comes along, more storylines develop, we can sprinkle something. But for now, that's kind of what we're looking at early in the week.
All right, Kevon Cobb, I appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you next Tuesday. Great
awesome
job.
Thanks for having me. Cheers, Pete.
Appreciate you.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
We are back live here in the Alico building. What floor are we on, Cam?
21.
What floor do you go to get snacks?
16.
What happens
Doc
when
Gooden.
you go? What happens when you go get snacks?
I steal them.
Now, what makes you think that that's okay?
God hasn't smited me yet.
They do have a pretty screwed up program down there where it won't take your credit card.
I know that's the problem is they don't take my fucking credit card. That's a them issue. That's why God has not struck me down yet. I think they're just piling evidence on me.
Hey, what about what you talked about today? You said I didn't have a chance to hear it, but I am curious about this baseball season.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your new plan to shorten the season.
Zach's on board big time, by the way.
Zach, you're on board?
Yeah, I thought I'd have way more like deterrence to add to it, but no, he sold me on it. Like I get it. I support Cam's plan.
On the night of a debate, that
Checks
sounds
in the
so
mail.
sketch.
Hey, I'll be the vice president for him for this. We'll get it done.
All right, tell me your plan.
So the plan, it's actually pretty simple, Pete, is that we end the regular season on Labor Day weekend. We take the month out of September completely out of the equation for regular season.
What about
baseball.
numbers?
Don't give a shit. 162? Like, why are we married to that?
Dude, you just blew your plan sky high.
Why are we married to that?
You might
Make it 140. Who cares?
I think you can. Okay. Keep going though. I want to hear your idea.
Maybe even 135. And it's all to make the games matter more. That's what it's all about.
Okay. So
because it's a tough thing to fix for baseball.
Okay. All right.
So Labor Day weekend, you have the last weekend of the regular season. And that way you get that out of the way before the NFL comes in. Now, I know college football is a big deal, which does start on Labor Day weekend. But, okay, we're putting, you got a couple of good college football games throughout that weekend. But also, those days are going to be filled up with the most important regular season baseball games of the year. Okay? So you get that done. And as we see every year, when we first get our taste of college football, week 1 better than week 0. And we're like, finally, live, meaningful sports. We haven't had that in months. And then you're like itching until Thursday night football and the kickoff starts. How about in those days in between, we've already given you the best regular season baseball games. How about we give you the most important games of the year? The 1-game playoffs and the 3 games, whatever. We're going to put those in between. And then we've got you. You're not going to... I'm not going to watch a lot of games over the Patriots, but we've got you hooked in now, and we're building this throughout the weekends. And we're trying not to go up against football as much as possible. So Saturday, Sunday playoff games, play them in the day.
Wow.
You get the early weeks, your best college football games are always going to be at night. Once you get more into the season and conference play, it gets a little bit more spread out through the day. And football, again, you're never going to win against the NFL, but I like my chances more taking on the early slate of games versus going up against Sunday Night Football. I just do. I know the numbers aren't, equally distributed there, but in terms of an interest, there is. So you start the season at the same time you do. I honestly wouldn't even mind condensing it more and pushing it more towards May. And I love baseball. But what I hate is when there's a month of not a lot of meaningful baseball, right? Only a couple of teams are still actually in this thing. There's a bunch who are not, and there's a couple who are coasting, like your Phillies. Okay. I don't know how your Mets are doing, but
I don't like
your
the
Phillies.
Mets. I don't like the Mets.
They're doing well. So I'm making August, which is one of the dullest months for sports. I'm making that into a sports month, at least the last couple of weeks. Okay.
Okay. I mean,
all
look,
right, you following me here? And
when did you come up with this idea?
Recently.
When did it hit you? Recently?
I don't know, a couple days ago.
But you
mainly last night.
But you've got an old soul, and you have an affection for the numbers and the history of the game. So this throws all that into a tailspin. All of a sudden, you don't care?
At the end of the day, Pete, I don't. Because I know what you're saying. Like, there are records that will now never be broken if you do that, if you take 25 games or 30 games out of the schedule. But on the flip side right now is you've got a sport that is just, for all intents and purposes, it is dead. Like it, and I know it's thriving and still in some ways. but it is not the popularity sport that it was 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
It's not even close. And part of that goes into part of this argument goes into the fact that I want to keep it away from October because that's when the NBA is starting too. And you're not the NBA anymore. Like, you're not bigger than that. So here, what I'm giving baseball is I am giving it some spotlight again. Preseason football is as bad as it's ever been. I'm going to give you the last few weeks of the MLB regular season right there. Some big time games, big time series right there. And when you're still like September, you're getting the best sports month of the year because you're getting the beginning of football. And oh yeah, throughout the week, I'm going to give you the baseball postseason. That puts eyes on it. Like, people are fired up when football starts and they want to keep watching sports. They'll watch any football game you put on Monday night and Thursday night and some action shit on Tuesday nights.
They will. Yeah.
I'm giving you at least part of that to baseball, which they do not have in October.
The most frustrating part about your plan, because you're a bright guy and it really is innovative.
I wouldn't say that, but
no, you are. And it's innovative, but it's also impossible in a sense that this is something that Major League Baseball would never go for.
I know.
You just started by cutting off 20 games?
Yeah, at least.
I mean, people talk about it all the time. They do. But
I mean, it's kind of the similar thing in golf. Like, people are just like, if golf was made today, it wouldn't be 18 holes. It'd be like 10 or 12. Like, that just fits better. And again, I love baseball.
Yeah.
I always have. But even me, like, I was calling my friend from high school last night. I was like, "You watching the game?" And he goes, "The Red Sox game?" I'm like, no, there's a football game on, which I think is how most of the American public is.
Yeah.
They're not going to watch a baseball game if there's a football game on. But what you can start to push in that direction is, okay, here's a week 1 red zone game, whatever, Browns and Jaguars, or you could have a knockout game in the playoffs. Baseball.
I remember it was 1986 and the Mets Red Sox got rained out on a Sunday night, right? Game 7. So it moved to Monday night. And at the same time, the Redskins and the Giants were playing on Monday Night Football. And I can remember I actually was a Mets fan. I loved Gary Carter, Darryl Strawberry, and Dwight Gooden.
Knew that was
so I loved them. So I was like so excited about watching the Mets put the finishing touches on this amazing comeback. But Michael was upstairs watching Monday Night Football. This is back in 1986 when baseball was at a fever pitch.
Pretty big still, yeah.
Yeah, but it
kind of on the downslope of a really popular time, but still very big.
Football is just so special that it's I mean, baseball gets his ass kicked when it goes up against football 99% of the time.
And a story about that, because I come from one of the great baseball towns in America. And I will never forget 2007. I was in 5th grade, and the Red Sox won the World Series on a Sunday night.
You beat the Rockies.
Yeah. 4-0.
Yeah.
Bad World Series.
The Rockies beat the Phillies.
And I came back to school the next day, 5th grade, and the teacher had like on the board, because we came back from a weekend, it was like woohoo, Red Sox like won the World Series. And then underneath it, in like the same font, like not even smaller, and was like, and how about those Patriots? They beat the Redskins 52-7 the day before. And it was like, these are on an even playing field here. I'm like, one team just won the World Series.
Yeah.
The Patriots are now 6 or 8-0. But it was like, those were equal things.
That was the Spygate season, post Spygate, when they were like, we're going to beat, right?
We're just going to beat the piss out of everybody. But
it was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
What have you?
I could talk 07 Patriots forever.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about. I got a chance.
Oh, final touch on this thing, baseball. By the way,
yeah,
because Zach had asked, would you move? You move everything up, and that's true. You move trade deadline up, you move roster expansion up, but All-Star game you keep in the same place. It's not at the exact midpoint anyway, so who gives a shit? You put it in the same place so everyone knows to come to that when it's the middle of July, right? And you have this whole hype train, Ohtani and Judge and Skeens and all this. And then you're like, how about this for a pitch? When you're watching this and you're getting nostalgic about baseball, in like 2.5 weeks, I'm going to give you meaningful baseball games. You don't have to wait 2 months anymore. That's a hell of a sell to me. Anyway, go ahead.
What have you thought? Zach, anything?
Again, I told
Zach's
you Cam
all in.
sold me on this. Like I thought
I think
that
it's a necessary evil, man.
well,
Like,
for
I think it is.
baseball, it makes more sense because you're not going to win going up against football. It's just not going to happen. And at least to me, the games in August, the season, it does feel just like a slog. Like I can't get excited to watch, a Mariners Rangers game if both teams are like, 10 games back already in August, where it's like, it feels like the implications of how close you are in that playoff race, you don't have as much time to make up. It adds a sense of urgency. It makes those matchups in August feel more important than they are. It's September baseball earlier when you have the television market to yourself.
And like September, you lose the audience. Like that's kind of the end all be all of this. You are playing a month of regular season baseball up against football.
I'm not going to waste time, but I wish I had ratings.
But like, I'm just
Pulled up.
saying, like, this is more of like an earball test of like, you lose the interest when you're going up against football for a whole month. And then people are like, oh, yeah, baseball postseason. I haven't really been paying attention.
Yeah.
That casual fan, you completely lose it. Versus you put it at the beginning of September and you're like, oh yeah, dude, I was watching that Mariners Tigers thing last week. They were like battling for the last playoff spot, or yeah, my team got in, or you know what I mean? You feel more in tune to it.
Yeah.
And then you can start your football after that. So anyway,
Hold
you were
on.
gonna move on. But
No,
I
hold
think that's golden.
We'll see
Labor
what
Day
then.
weekend, Americana.
Okay.
Baseball needs to tune into
Okay.
any Americana.
You
they
ready?
Can. Yeah.
So 2024 season, I mean, that game Thursday night, almost 30 million viewers.
Yeah.
Okay. To start
Yeah.
the season. Baseball ratings, the average for the 2023 World Series, 9 million viewers. I mean,
I'm just trying to salvage some of that.
so you're talking about an opening night football game has almost 30 million viewers,
Mhm.
and the average for baseball last year, 9 million viewers.
Which I think was an all-time low,
Yeah.
to be fair. But yes. Like
Yeah,
you're never
yeah.
going to win that. I'm trying to bridge it a little bit.
What about Drew Barrymore?
And some damn interest. What about her?
Do you like Drew Barrymore?
Eh.
She's annoying me right now because
I liked one film she was in.
what, Firestarter?
No.
E.T.?
Fever Pitch.
Huh?
Fever Pitch.
Oh my God, that was so bad. That movie, her and Jimmy Fallon.
I was talking about that with Grace the other day, and she was saying like something about it. She was like, and it's like it's not a bad movie or anything. And I was like, well, it's kind of bad.
He got to celebrate on.
We
They got
love
to
it.
celebrate on the field.
Yeah.
That's
That does bug me big time. Because I was saying me and my two brothers and my dad went when it came out. Three of us under the age of 13 in the PG-13 movie. And I was like, everyone
Boy,
in
the
our
Stewarts,
region.
you guys are just crazy.
I know. Like everyone in our region saw that movie. Like everyone saw it.
To a man, they had to have thought it sucked.
I mean, yeah, no one's saying it's like a great movie. I admit that. Like it's not a great movie. I like it because of what it is, even though I should be bugged that it's Jimmy Fallon, who's from New York and wears Yankees hats, but and like neither of them obviously give half a shit about Boston or the Red Sox,
Would you want Dennis Leary?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like Mark Wahlberg would have been a disaster too. Like, you know what I mean? Casey Affleck, man, maybe.
There you go. I'd love Casey Affleck. The thing about Drew Barrymore, I just saw a headline.
I think that's a boy's name, if I'm being honest. I still think it's a boy's name.
So Drew Barrymore, here's the headline, still feels so much shame about her history of being a blackout drinker. And Zoe Kravitz was on her talk show. Apparently Zoe has a new movie that deals with substances. Now, Drew Barrymore.
I would never abuse substances. I love substances.
Drew Barrymore she needs some kind of program. Like she's trying to do it by herself. Of course she has the baggage. We need to process the baggage in life.
She's got a lot of baggage.
She's gone on record saying she doesn't do any kind of program or whatever. Well, this is why you have the baggage, Drew. I need 5 minutes with her, and we can solve this.
She should come on the payoff.
You know what? We should start to effort that. That's one of those things that might take 5 years. So to even get to her, if you're me,
I think
for her
that'd
to
be
say
really
no.
good. Like if you diagnosed it within a couple minutes and you're like,
I mean, that's
"Here's what
it.
I do," and she just does it.
I got the answer. Okay. Another quick topic for you. Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
He was so great last night. You didn't watch
Is
any of
that
him in the
so? I
Manning
caught a
cast?
little bit. I
Did
caught
you?
a little bit of it.
So the best part was he was calling for certain angles as though he was there
Yes.
with the cowboy clicker.
Yes.
Can we see the sideline again, guys? Can we see the sideline? It's like, hey, Bill, we we know you're important, but like we can't run it up the flagpole to the Monday Night Football producers that you want to see a sideline replay. I love how he has no idea for how that whole monster is moving right there. You know, that was
Love
pretty
it.
cool.
He's a very awkward talker, like very awkward. But I think he's doing this on one of his other shows there. Like, I just need him in the film room.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody. It's not entertaining for a lot of people, but for those who are into this, like into this football stuff, like he could give you the masterclass of watching film. And I would love that rather than him trying to be, on with whatever. The Mannings and Pat McAfee. It's just like, that's just not him.
It's
Like,
not. Well, the
you know what I
Mannings
mean?
was a little more like him.
They can rope you in a little bit.
Because they're football. I mean,
Yeah.
they were talking a lot of football. What do you think? Is he still with the younger girl?
I think so. Yeah.
What do you think about that?
All the power to you, man. Look,
I think it's a little much.
I think there's something there from her end, right? Probably. But consenting adults, man.
It's a little much. I that's all. I mean, he's built.
She's like much younger than his kids. Like to the point, you know what I mean? Like, you know how you'll hear that sometimes, like,
Yeah.
oh my God, like I could be this kid's dad. And it's like, he could be her grandfather.
Well, that's
like, literally could be her
and
grandfather.
you've now moved into a whole nother very real situation. Like if that relationship were to last, like
Does he like
his
go meet
kids
her
have got to be
parents?
like, dude, dad, like what is the deal? You
Well,
know, like,
Kraft's kids went through the same thing.
yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
Like a
But
guy,
like, does he like go to her house? Like for her mom cooks for them, like family vacations? Like what, you know what I mean? Like, how does that work out?
How did you ever have, when you were in college, did you ever have a guy that came back to college that would like hang out with any girls you knew? And what was your opinion of that guy if he did?
Wait.
So you're in college.
Yep.
Zach Burke is 25, but he still lives in the Central Texas area. So he comes back to your college and he's hanging out with, in your opinion, the most attractive girl at the sorority.
Yeah, like a little bit, like girls. Like girls I would be friends with, and they would date locals who were older. Not, I wouldn't say considerably older, but yeah, probably like 25. Saw a bunch of that.
What's your
In fact,
thoughts
one of
on
my
that?
exes did that, I think. Like if we're talking the difference between 25 and 20, like that is a difference more than 35 and 30, but I think that's okay. It wouldn't be how like me as a 27-year-old now. If I was single, I wouldn't be going after girls in college. You know what I mean?
Okay, last question I want to ask you because we're kind of up against it, but I planned on this because you asked me about movies. I've led you down the walk of romance here. What's your favorite rom-com?
I mean, if all things being equal, it is Fever Pitch because I've seen it so many
Come on,
times.
dude.
But I'm gonna pick something else.
That can't be your favorite.
I mean, it is.
That movie sucks, Cam.
I know you think that.
No, I
but
don't think that.
I get
Everyone
that it's
thinks
not
that.
good.
That's a
but
really
that's
bad movie.
my favorite.
Like I
love the Red Sox.
I wanted
man.
it to be good. You know what I mean? Like I watched it and I was like, it's a any movie about sports.
You talk about relating to movies. I relate in a way to that movie. Like that's a struggle I go through.
Maybe I need to watch it again, but I remember thinking like, man, this is disappointing.
Oof, that's tough. Man.
Again, that's where. By the way, we've been talking about this recently, right here on this show. Sports is so much better than fiction. I mean, real life
absolutely
outdoes fiction almost all the time. Like, and that's a great example. That movie sucked in comparison to the way that the Red Sox came back down 3-0 and then ultimately swept the Cardinals. You know?
So I have a sister who's 8 years older than me. So I get a lot like ahead of my time, pop culture wise, a lot with music. I could do a whole thing about how girl music of the 2000s has helped me out in my everyday life. But because of that, I got to see a lot of rom-coms early on.
Yeah.
I think the one I'm going to go with is 10 Things I Hate About You.
I've never seen it, but it's 99. I should have seen it. I remember.
Beautiful high school campus in Seattle. Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
Young Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Some good music in there. Some Pixies in there. Zach's big into that.
JGV.
What are some other ones from that time?
Well, I mean, the 90s were great.
Like
I mean,
Notting Hill, I thought was total shit.
Yeah.
Oh. Actually, this would count. I have to watch every year. And I realize it's stupid, but for some reason I love watching it every year. And that is Love Actually at Christmas time.
Yeah. Oh.
Like it's so dumb.
Yeah.
It's so easy to make fun of, but I
people
like
love that.
make Grace watch it. I'm like, let's do Love Actually now.
Well, you know, we're by the way, it's Zach. We're past the time, but
He's been frantically
Yeah.
signaling.
Oh,
me.
he has. I'm sorry.
There's such a funny Easter egg in because we're over time. I'm going to tell this real quick. Such a funny Easter egg in Love Actually that I noticed the first time I watched with Grace. It was I think I was actually still working in Odessa, and there's that scene where the guy moves to Milwaukee because he wants to get with American girls, and he's at a bar, and I noticed like behind them. This is the 10th time I've seen this movie. I'm like, wait a minute, there's a pennant behind him, and I'm like, that's the Midland Rockhounds, the AA baseball team in Midland, Texas, and they just like threw up a pennant to make it like American Sports Bar, and it's in Milwaukee.
Where was
I have
it
a
filmed?
picture of
Was
it
it
somewhere.
filmed on location in Milwaukee?
And maybe, but I think they just like had random sports artifacts
Yeah.
to throw in there,
I like it.
and I just thought that was so funny. But yeah, Love Actually would be. You know,
Zach, we got to go.
we're so over
Last
that, man.
thing, we're
Yeah, it's
21
so painful.
days from October, and that's when I try to watch Halloween at least once a week. All right,
Once
we're gonna
a
wrap
week,
it up
geez.
tomorrow. Darby Brown will be here. We'll be talking college football, looking ahead to Baylor's matchup this weekend against Air Force, and much, much more. Stay tuned to the Rogue Media Network, and thank you so much to all our sponsors. You see them all right here. Socorro Family Ford, D1, Daniel Stark. Cam, thanks so much.
Thanks, Pete.
Don't forget
I love
about
it.
Slovacics and Crawford Austin. We'll see you.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
We are Rogue Media Sports.